Day 3. I feel like we're descending into madness, but we feel like we're not.
I will find you again.
Why did she disappear? There's so many questions.
Lissy!
Upstairs!
Getting upstairs.
Betty? Is that you?
I'm coming.
Lissy!
In here.
Can I read that book yet? Oh, I can. Oh wow. So August 3rd, 1923. This morning I had lemon juice and hot water with no sugar instead of tea. I also had half an apple of dry toast. I've been gaining weight lately. I read about this diet in the paper. It's apparently very popular in London. I'm dreadfully hungry and crave fried eggs and sausages. Sounds like my type of diet. August 4th. This is somebody's diary. I'm assuming Anne. We received an odd letter yesterday addressed to Johann from an American gentleman, Mr. Edward Harden of Hanover, Massachusetts. The letter was well written and very polite. Mr. Harden received our information from Elsland police when he requested a contact in Gravik. I do wonder why they gave him Johann's name and not Frederick's. Perhaps because our dear Margaret is no longer with us, and I am better prepared to respond in English than Frederick. Mr. Harden inquired about his sister Elizabeth Harden, who's travelling on her own. Apparently she's a journalist. Imagine that, crossing the Atlantic Ocean to write about Norway. It sounds wonderful. The letter said Elizabeth telegraphed her brother from Elsland to inform him that she planned to visit Gravik. Why she'd want to come to this dreary old place, I have no idea. There's nothing here worth writing about anymore. His sister has not arrived yet. If she had, I would have tired her out with questions about America. Being a journalist and travelling the world on her own, she sounds so interesting. I hope she does come, even though she will surely be bored out of her mind. I'll write Mr. Harden today. Johann is not comfortable writing letters, especially in English. He agrees that we should invite Mr. Harden to stay here, if he decides to come after all. There are no guest houses in Gravik, and our spare room is rarely used. Also, I have to admit, having a visitor from America sounds terribly exciting. August 5th, 1923. This morning I had a boiled egg and buttered toast, after Johann told me I was being silly and that I don't need to lose any weight, seeing as we're not in London and no one cares. Ah, isn't he lovely? Oh, no, I didn't mean to stop. But there's a lot. I wrote Mr. Harden to invite him to stay at the house. If he decides... Okay, no, so we've already done that. Oh no, we haven't. I'm terribly excited. I do worry for his sister. I wonder where she could be. August 9th. There was an argument in a shop earlier today. Frederick was yelling at poor Astrid, claiming that goats had been grazing on his land. I wanted to speak up, but knew I'd only make him angrier. August 10th. Johann went across the fjord this morning to purchase some necessities, including new fabrics, and to pick up a post. Letters have been piling up in the store. I sometimes worry the world has completely forgotten about us. August 17th. I finished another dress today. This one is for myself. There are no customers anymore. No one here needs another dress, and it's been ages since we visited the city. I hardly know anyone there. And who would want their dresses made in Gravik when they can have one tailored in Iceland? I'm really sorry if I'm butchering the pronunciation of that. I feel lonely today. I miss my dear Margaret so much after all these years. August 20th. I think Ruth is hiding something from me. She's been awfully secretive. She goes off on her own even more than usual, and her clothes are filthy. I don't mind her playing and exploring, of course. I always did regret Margaret and I not being allowed to run free when we were little. Ruth says she's just looking for flowers and pretty rocks. I shouldn't worry so much. August 21st. Simon stopped by today with a gift for Ruth. A whole bar of chocolate. He's a sweet boy, but Frederick would be furious if he knew. August 22nd. I asked Ruth if she plays up by Frederick's farm or near the old mine. She promised she doesn't. I've never had reason not to trust her, but I feel she's hiding something from me. This is the last page. I looked at her drawings while she's out. She's got such an imagination. September 5th. We received another letter from Mr. Harden. He'll be here in October as planned. I look forward to having someone else to speak with, if only for a few days. Not that Johann isn't good company, but we have little to converse about outside of our daily routines. What happens? There's been no sign of Mr. Harden's sister yet. If she left Aylesland weeks ago, where could she be? She may well decide to stop along the way. We've heard nothing, but we also rarely speak with anyone outside Gravik these days. I do hope she's alright. I would hate for Mr. Harden to come all this way to no avail. Ruth is still being secretive. I know she's hiding something. One of these days I will follow her. December 9th. No church service again today. The vicar hasn't been back since the memorial service in July. Johann believes he won't be back, and that he has given up on Gravik, like everyone else. I think I'm coming down with a cold. September 15th. Someone damaged our boat during the night. That's the third one this month. Johann suspects Frederick, of course. I fear something is bubbling to the surface again after all these years. I'm not at all feeling well and spent most of yesterday and today in bed. Ruth was sweet and brought me potato soup and tea with honey and milk. September 18th. She left us. Our dearest Ruth is gone. I cannot believe it was Simon's doing. He too is now gone, and with him all hope Gravik had left in it. What do you mean he's gone? Town really did fall apart. Oh, we could play the Draugen Vaults. Oh, that was lovely. Piano Man. Right. Oh, we can draw. Let us draw then. Is that a crib? It is indeed. And now it's only sit. Yeah, I don't think we actually have to sit that long to actually draw.
This is her room. Are you paying attention? Ruth. Can you imagine? One moment you're living a perfectly happy life, and then nothing. Darkness. Forever and ever. Maybe there's something here that can tell us what happened to her.
This is a waste of my time.
We might be the only ones left to tell her story, Edward.
What's
You're
that?
just being melodramatic. I'll help you look.
Ruth was an artist.
This is very primitive.
Have you ever met a
Go.
child, Edward? She wasn't Monet. She was 8. That must be Ruth and Simon's fathers.
Perhaps. They weren't on the best of terms.
They look like they want to kill each other.
To a child, maybe it looked worse than it was.
Children are more insightful than you give them credit for, Teddy Bear.
They are indeed. This one's
She
interesting.
found something.
Where's that supposed to be?
A cave. Or the...
Mine. It could be. But what did she find?
something important enough to draw.
Treasure by the looks of it. Viking treasure?
This must be the village church. That's Ruth and her family on one side of the aisle, Simon and his father on the other.
A community divided.
Now that's a creepy doll. What about that book? Can we pick that up?
Draugen.
Hey, the undead monster from those folk tales you read.
What an odd book for a child to have.
I don't know. Children love scary stories. This looks interesting. Read some of it to me, please.
In Norwegian folklore, the appearance of Draugen, the reanimated corpse of a drowned mariner, heralds death. Draugen haunts the black seas in a shattered boat. The beast has a man's body and wears a sou'wester, but instead of a head, there is tangled seaweed, and the revenant's chilling cry freezes mortal blood to ice. Draugen has the power to enter the dreams of the living. If you wake from such a dream, you have been spared, though someone close to you... That's enough of that.
Yeah, I'd agree.
It's nonsense, of course. Not something a child should be reading.
Do you think Draugen took our boat? Maybe he's out there, on the fjord, waiting for nightfall so he can return to shore.
No.
Your soul lacks poetry, Edward Charles Harden. I pity you. She made her bed that morning. Before she...
Or her parents did.
Yeah, we can't say she made it.
Doesn't matter. It tells us nothing.
Why are you like this today? Betty's not the only person in the world that matters.
She
I know.
matters the most to me.
Ain't that the truth?
What? What's that? A bear and a pig. What's that meant to mean?
Ruth never finished this. What does that spell? F-O-R-B.
For Banelson. The curse.
Who's that figure supposed to be?
The
It's
Draugen.
creepy. It looks a bit like the Draugen in her book.
A figment of her imagination. But the box she drew.
That's that
Looks
box.
like this box under her desk.
Really? Let me see. Pull it out.
Well, let's open it.
What is this?
Viking
I
treasure.
believe this might qualify as actual treasure.
Is that Norwegian money?
Sort of, but ancient. Viking coins.
Are they valuable?
Not in terms of monetary value, but historically. They belong in a museum.
Looks like Ruth had her own private museum.
Why would a child have these artifacts?
She must have enjoyed collecting and playing with them.
These are much too precious to play with.
You didn't
should
know
give
that.
these to an adult.
She was a child, Edward. To her, they were just shiny toys. Wait! The pin! On the doll!
This is where it came from, her collection.
But where did she find these treasures?
If we're to believe her drawing, perhaps the mine. She may have found a gravesite. Wherever she found them, she wanted to keep them hidden.
You think someone found out?
These items wouldn't necessarily be worth much, except to a historian or archaeologist.
What if this is how...
And why?
If someone learned she'd been collecting treasures, they might be willing to do terrible things.
There's still no sign of the Fretlands.
Maybe they left town after Ruth died.
What's the point of this? I should be looking for Betty.
I hate you sometimes. There's a story here. The treasure box, the drawings.
The overactive mind of an imaginative child.
She didn't imagine the Viking artifacts.
Very true.
You shouldn't be so dismissive. The drawings could be her way of dealing with traumatic events.
This is what happens when I read you the principles of psychology. You get notions.
You say that like it's a bad thing. Ruth was troubled. The village was troubled, and... Is that a...
What?
bell?
The church bell. Someone's here. Maybe... Betty.
Why would Betty ring the church bell?
Perhaps she's in trouble. I need to get to the church right now.
Wait, isn't it more likely to be the person you saw the other night? We should be careful.
I told you, I'm not sure that was anything. Come on.
Go ahead. I'll catch up with you before you get there. I need a minute to think about all of this.
Okay. Right. Well, let's go. Pretty sure it's going to go terribly, but hey. How do we get there though? That's the question. Down this road? I was going to say it's stopped now. Oh. We'll stop to draw. I'm sure our sister won't mind. Cool. Have a look. What did we draw? Cool. That's that. Spooky little part to my right. So can we go through this gate now? I don't know if we could have before, to be honest.
Where are you?
Okay, so she stayed at the barn. Oh, the wind is picking up. What's this notice?
July 24th. Memorial service. A commemoration of the accident at the mine this past summer. No services after that.
The fresh grave over there. Oh, jeez.
Do you think that maybe
No.
Betty...
I'd know.
But
You wouldn't understand. Why board up a church?
to keep the ghosts from gone fishing?
God is not here.
Well, of course he isn't. You won't find God in a church. God is the wind in the trees, the grass between your toes, the brook that runs
That's
through.
nature, not God.
Well, you don't know that.
Who did this?
Someone who'd lost their faith.
Can you peek through the boards? See anyone?
No,
Listen! The bell! They're still in there!
They must be. Right, how do we get in?
Hello? I heard the bell.
Oh, this is giving me
I'm here to help.
heebie-jeebies.
These boards look flimsy enough to break.
Why do we have to break them though? Can we not go around? Okay, it's very dark. Let's remove these then, shall we? Thank God we didn't have to watch them do that one by one.
The Ethel becomes an Edward. Didn't think you had it in you, old fruit.
Be quiet. Betty? Are you here? Hello? This is Edward Harden. I'm looking for my sister,
Stop
Elizabeth.
shouting, Edward. We're alone. There are only ghosts here.
There are no ghosts.
I don't know about that. What's this rope for?
The bell.
Yeah.
This is the bell we heard ringing?
I don't see any other bells.
So you have to stand here and pull this rope to ring it.
Yes.
Seems a bit
There was
odd.
no one here. You didn't see anyone, right?
No.
No. No one.
Ghosts. I'm telling you, it's ghosts. So what happened to the Hunchback of Grovik?
They must be here still. There's only the one exit.
Maybe it was the wind.
A church bell's too heavy. It can't have been the wind. I mean... I don't know. Maybe it was the wind. There's no one here.
I don't like that sound. Please stop.
Okay.
Lissy. Look. Betty's gloves.
My God.
They are definitely Betty's.
Oh,
She
for
got
Pete's
these
sake.
in Boston before she left for New York. She bought them at Woolworth. I remember the day
The Woolworths.
She's here.
Where?
The dude.
Why would she leave her clothes lying around? It doesn't make
Breadcrumbs.
sense.
She's sending me a message. She knew I'd recognize her gloves. Her hat. She's left a trail for me to follow, like Ariadne's red thread.
We're not in a
Betty
labyrinth.
will have left more crumbs.
Betty, you're turning into such a pill.
I don't disagree with her.
What happened here?
The sign on the door. God is not here. Their faith was challenged, and it didn't survive.
Not by the looks of it.
The church book, a record of births and deaths.
So we can find out what happened to the people in the village?
And Elizabeth. I mean, if she was dead,
Her name would be in the book.
Why are we on E already?
vandals. Tore it to pieces.
I don't think the missing pages left the church. Look,
On the floor.
we need to find all the pages. How many pages are missing?
I counted 4.
They're probably all still here. I know. Let's make it a competition. 1-0 to Team Me.
Oh, how?
They considered this a sacred place. For them to destroy it. This was an act of desperation and anger.
I wanted you to find that one. I know what a rotten loser you are.
What are you doing? We're in a church.
Thought you didn't believe in God.
I do believe in civility.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure she's not real.
I've never seen you read the Bible before.
I've read the Bible many times. It's an important historical document. For he is our peace, who hath made both one, and hath broken down the middle wall of partition between us.
Did you just translate that into Old English?
I happen to know the verse by heart.
You still manage to surprise me sometimes. Jesus looks sad.
What reason would Jesus have to be happy?
Don't be blasphemous.
Given that this is all fiction, blasphemy is a contradiction.
Heretic.
To be fair, they both kind of have a point.
Found another one. You get it. It's right here. You found another one?
I have.
Don't forget about this page.
I'm coming.
What's that?
The last sermon that was held here.
What does it say?
The vicar's handwriting is hard to decipher, and the language. talks about the village being divided for 20 years. This sermon was held on the anniversary of the accident this past summer. He's asking the congregation to help heal old wounds, to forgive, and move on. Something to the effect of, you sit in separate aisles in God's house.
Like Ruth's drawing. I told you, she was perceptive.
Vision.
Sounds like Grovik was split in two, between those who stood by Johann and those who supported Frederick.
Because of Ruth?
This sermon is from before that. No, this is all about the preceding 20 years of division and disagreements. Here's something else. Many of you believe Grovik was cursed 20 years ago. God has not cursed you. This curse is of your own making.
Ruth's drawing mentioned a curse. What do you think that means?
It means they believed they were cursed, and that they needed something or someone to blame for their misfortune.
And let's go into forgiveness.
Edward?
Forgive each other. It addresses Johann and Frederick directly, but I wonder if they were even here.
Remember the wedding picture? They were close friends once.
Once upon a
How could
time.
they allowed their grudge to escalate until...
You call each other traitors, but the only thing you've betrayed are the bonds that unite us.
Push. Right, that's all the
2 for 2.
pages.
A tie. Good job, Teddy. Old
Stop,
bean.
Lissy. This is not a game. Betty's out there.
Of horse feathers. Stop being so gosh darn tedious, Edward. Biddy, biddy, biddy. Will you ever shut up about your precious Betty? Put those pages back in the book, and I'll stop trying to cheer you up. Isn't this a fire hazard?
They're not always lit. Each candle represents a single prayer.
That's a lot of prayers.
There were a lot of deaths.
A little bit somber, but hey.
This book goes back
Traitors.
years. It lists births and deaths. Here's the third Fretland brother, the one who died in a cave-in. Someone added the word for Banelson, probably quite recently.
What does that mean again?
Curse.
Oh, curse.
That word is all over this book. Not just the men who died in the mine, but other deaths in the last 20 years.
Ruth's drawing and the sermon both mentioned a curse. What do you think it means?
I don't know. There were surprisingly few births.
Perhaps they blame that on the curse as well.
Don't be Elizabeth. Oh, wow.
Look here. Ruth Elsa Fretland. She was buried in the cemetery. And the next entry, Simon Fretland. Now this is interesting.
Simon is dead? Oh, that's dreadful.
He drowned the day after Ruth died. Probably no coincidence. See what's scribbled next to it?
Mord?
Murder.
Who killed him? Ruth's father? Or the
Seems
mob
plausible.
that trashed the store?
It doesn't say. After the children, a half-dozen deaths in a single week.
The curse.
It's listed as the cause for every single death.
Maybe there really was a curse.
Primitive superstition. But something changed after Ruth and Simon. It might explain why there's no one around.
Edward, if it killed everyone, how's that not a curse? What does that word say? Next to those names at the bottom. For a
Traitor.
Edward? What's wrong?
The final entry. There's no name. Alice, what if...
Oh, Edward, no.
Betty,
It doesn't mean she's
she's not dead. She can't be. I'd know.
Teddy.
I need to see the grave for myself.
Don't go
It's not
digging
Betty.
up a grave.
Betty's still alive.
Teddy? Where are you going?
Oh, wow.
Don't leave me! Edward!
This one. It's unmarked.
he mad?
I think he has.
Edward, stop it!
Thank God. It's not her. It's not.
No
Betty.
coffins.
It's not her.
Oh, Edward. What have you done?
It's not Elizabeth. I was so afraid.
You're a monster.
But I had to be sure. If Betty...
To hell with your Betty! When did she ever shed a tear for you?
Don't talk about my baby sister like
Or
that.
what? Or what, Edward? What will you do? Ignore us? Banish us? You've spent your entire life chasing her.
What?
When are you going to do something useful with what's left of it?
Quiet! Just... leave me be.
Fine.
I knew it!
Lizzie? Alice? Come back. Don't leave me alone. Please. Come back. I need you.
I knew it. Oh, can I draw here? No. You should be able to draw here. So where do we go now? The only thing I can think is go back to the house. I assume we're done defacing graves. Who are you?
I was afraid you'd left me.
Oh, it's still you. Okay.
Now listen to me.
Be reasonable.
No!
Damn it. There she is. Come on, Alice. No.